What?
Here we go. Jenga. Time for Jenga, everybody.
I hate you sometimes. I really do. I really do.
Go.
I don't like you right now. Now the fact that it's already the 15th, because that game took years off my life.
Oh my God.
Freaking ridiculous.
We're all convinced that Roger Goodell is going to wring the neck of that officiating crew for a Monday night game, right? Like,
yeah, there's absolutely no way that they get out unscathed after
oh,
that.
My
Because
gosh.
that's all anybody's talking about right now.
Yeah.
Even Rodgers is talking about how bad
they're
they
not
were tonight.
They're not getting a playoff game this year. I promise you that. I promise you that.
No, they'll get that. No, they'll get that crappy Friday night opening round on Prime Video is where they'll stick them.
Yeah, they'll just put up just wherever the AFC South is. That's where they're going.
The one that's the Peacock exclusive. That's the playoff game they'll get this year, or the one that's streaming on Tubi or whatever they decide to expand to.
Yeah, guys. Hashtag Nation Bills Mafia. That game was so long. You got 4 of us now. That's how long.
Yeah. This is the 4 stages of grief you go through, after a loss. This game felt like a loss, didn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Like the whole time.
100%.
It's just you're waiting for the other shoe to drop. I mean, good God.
Yeah, this felt like a drought era game, right? Where
It was.
What's gonna happen now that they're gonna lose this football game?
It was like the colorblind game when they played in all red versus all green.
Oh God! Oh, I was at that game. I was at that game in New York. Terrible.
It was ridiculous. It was ridiculous. Well, ladies and gentlemen, Bills Mafia and Hashtag Nation, welcome to the Hashtag Sports presentation of the Buffalo Bills versus the New York Jets, a laundry-filled affair in which the Buffalo Bills came out on top, 23-20. I obviously am flanked by all of Hashtag Sports. Paul, Joe, as Joe made the call, and Ryan. We are not going to pull any punches tonight. That was absolutely abysmal. And guys, do you want to start? Do you want to wait? First of all, you can find all of our socials: TikTok, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. All episodes go on iTunes and Spotify. Tonight's sponsor is Mr. Rogers Homes and BetDSI. Both are linked in the description of this video. Do you guys want to start with the Hail Mary, or should we just wait? What? We just got flagged for the post game. What the hell?
There was a flag.
How's that a play? Anyway, do you guys want to start with the Hail Mary or what?
Sure. You can start there.
Go ahead, Ryan. You can kick it off.
Oh my God! I mean, what's there to say? I mean, the guy's Aaron Rodgers, who's a 40-year-old on one leg, and they're worried about sideline routes. Like, what are we doing? What is happening with Sean McDermott? It's like he's getting worse in terms of how he manages tight moments. Like, people are worried about Bass having the yips. What is McDermott doing in closing moments? Like, a sideline route for what? What are you covering the sideline route for? Why are you rushing 2? Why are the 2 guys going to the sideline and then immediately crashing on Rodgers? Like he's going to take off and run 57 yards for a touchdown? It's maddening. And it's every single week. It's so maddening to watch Sean McDermott. Like, you're just screaming to the heavens how much longer he can't keep getting away with this, right? Like, he cannot keep getting away with like stunting this football team, because that's what it is at this point. Yeah, Paul, like he can, right? Like he's going to keep getting away with it. But
I
don't know, Ryan. I mean, I don't know. He still had some timeouts in his pocket, so I don't have much to complain about here.
You mean,
like, does he get like a treat when he walks into the locker room and he has timeouts left?
Well, they did use one, right? Like he used one.
4 minutes into the third quarter, they used it.
No. I'm saying like before the Hail Mary, he used the timeout. He can't.
Oh yeah, the Kodak timeout.
He got that look. It's weird that a guy who's known for coaching defensive backs has that happen to him so much. Like, geez.
You know what? Here's the thing. Why aren't we hear me out? Why aren't we putting Reggie Gilliam out there or MVS out there? Because those 2 guys can't fucking catch a thing. So they're going to be fine.
Or I got a better one. How about 6'5" Matt Collins? How about put him out there? He's great at knocking balls down.
He ain't going to catch it either. Yeah,
you're right. He probably lose it in the lights.
I don't know how you do that. Like Sean, not every coach in the NFL is as conservative as you are. You're not guarding the sidelines for that reason. And
I know, like you have Quentin Morris, like you have Dalton Kincaid, you have Dawson Knox. Like these are big-bodied guys that can go do those things for you and be a little grungy.
what
You
the hell?
know
Put
it's gonna
Spencer
happen.
Brown out there. I don't care.
Belichick did it all the time. And who was it that I don't want to
Gronk.
steal? Matthews
Gronk.
brings it up in the
Yeah.
chat. He used to do it with
Yeah.
Gronk
Yeah.
all the time. Just
Yeah.
stick him out there and just go,
Yeah.
you know, Gronk SWAT or whatever we'd yell at him. And the polar bear would just run out there and just swipe at the ball when it comes near him.
We do want to give a shout out to Bonds Goat 25. Hey guys, holding Bonds 15-yard penalty, second down.
I'm just going to keep throwing flags all day at work tomorrow for just no apparent reason and calling roughing the passer because I am so frustrated. How in the world can somebody please explain it to me like I'm 5 years old? How was that a roughing the passer on Epeneza's second sack? How is that
wasn't.
roughing the passer?
Even Rodgers in his post-game press conference said it wasn't.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Rodgers
that's
is the man who was
garbage.
it.
That's such garbage. That stuff ruins the game.
Yeah.
You know,
And-
like there
and
were
the
a
sad-
lot of ghost penalties tonight. A
Yeah.
lot.
Yeah.
And the sad thing is, as an official, I try to reason it out. Like during the live stream, I try to reason what's going on. And I'm just like, but no. Like I was like, what did Joe Buck say? They were calling it for landing on. I was like, he didn't land on him. Like there's nothing there. So
Yeah,
No,
defend
you're still going
your
for the
people,
ball.
Joe.
yeah, I'm trying to defend my people. I can't. And listen, the guy who was officiating the game today was Adrian Hill. He graduated from the University of Buffalo. What is he doing?
You people are ruining the football game. Joe. You're ruining the game.
Oh, with the you people.
No. How about Mr. How about Mr. I have 165 touchdowns to 141 picks, talking about Allen throwing 5 or 6 picks this year. Troy, lay off the sauce before the game, bro. Seriously. I can't believe I can't with him. I can't with him anymore. He is to Rodgers what Collingsworth is to Mahomes. Rodgers can do no wrong in Troy Aikman's eyes. It's so bad. Like on top of the penalties, it was so bad listening to Troy call that game. It was abysmal. I couldn't.
I'm just not the biggest Joe Buck believer, right? So, like, it's just not. I'm glad he's not doing baseball right now because when he was doing playoff baseball, my soul would just sink right to my feet. I just can't stand listening to Joe Buck cover baseball. So I was fine with him doing Monday Night Football. I'd rather listen to Joe. Thank you very much, Joe, for calling the entire game. A passionate game that was called, I must say.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
How many holes have you punched in your desk after the first half of that game alone?
No. Listen, I broke more stuff at the end of the game last week than I did today, so that's improvement. That's improvement. I don't know what you're talking about.
He looks like he's playing Fortnite.
Yeah.
I thought
there's a reason why
I
my
was-
things moved.
I thought I was going to hit a parlay tonight. I had a Breece Hall anytime touchdown, and just to see him run out of gas, like it was just one of those things where I was like, "No, get him, good. I got money on this." Like it like bothered me a little bit.
Oh,
but
everybody's
Taylor
parlay
Rapp-
hit tonight.
I know. I
That's a
heard
shame.
somebody's parlay.
Mine
I heard
had.
something.
Oh yeah.
To me, Taylor Rapp was MVP tonight, right?
Oh God.
3 huge,
The heat-seeking missile.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, 2 big pass breakups, right? And he was playing out there like he didn't give him. He had zero cares.
No fear.
Zero cares.
He
He is
was out there-
fearless with that Guardian cap on.
He was out there trusting that Guardian helmet way more than
He sure was. He sure was.
He was legitimately out there just yeeting himself into people.
Yeah. Well,
He was
Isaac
like the-
Barr's not going to do it.
I actually said during the live stream, even though I didn't think either hit was a defenseless receiver. At the same time, to see both those hits happen the way they did, and for them not to call defenseless receiver one time, I was like, "Wow, no penalty. That works. That's awesome." But yeah, I thought for sure one of those times they would have been uncalled.
But Rapp was like that guy from Dexter tonight. Surprise, mother. But like within the construct of the game, though, you know what I mean? I mean, you could take a look at all 3 of those pass breakups and the fact that he was the one time he just threw his body, the other one he put his shoulder in the guy's chest, in Garrett Wilson's chest, and I think he just knocked the wind out of him. I think that was the biggest thing. And actually making up, as Ryan said during the game, he made up for that Hamlin that breakup he made in the end zone. Hamlin was late on that. He was lost.
Yeah.
It was a good thing Rapp recovered and then was able to get across there and knock the ball loose. But true too.
With the super snap. What is worse, McDermott's defensive play calling or someone thinking that Brett did not screw Brett with love? Thank you. Yeah, Brett did screw Brett. Have you seen the McMahon documentary?
I don't believe anything McMahon says now anymore.
Yeah. Oof. It was like, I'll be honest with you, Vince McMahon is a scary looking individual now. It's like talking to one of the display ghosts at Spirit Halloween store. That's what it looks like.
You talk to them? That's weird.
We never go in the car anymore, Mario. Like, who am I supposed to talk to?
Exactly. Garno Freck comes in and says Rapp equals Bobby Boucher tonight on some of those hits. Tackling.
Yeah, I know. Ryan's Rapp identifies as a missile.
Yeah. And I think that that's one of the things that's so maddening to me about McDermott, right? Like, the defense looked horrible at times, just up and down the field. They looked absolutely horrible. And then I saw a stat that got tweeted out after the game on third down tonight. And Mario and Paul, you guys may know a little bit more in terms of what this means, but the Bills had a .47 EPA defensively on third down, which is expected points added, which means they were amazing on third down is what that translates to. Like, anything under 1 defensively is just unbelievably good. They were so good on defense today. Third down, red zone, like, that was the difference in the football game.
Yeah, we saw a stat. The Bills give up 17 points and around 250 yards in the first half, and then gave up like 170 yards in the second half with 3 points. But like you said, a lot of those are attributed to penalties, breaking up drives, and the continuity and then the rhythm of the game. And it was just so two guys who are, we talk about running backs being volume runners. The more carries he gets, the better he gets. With Rodgers and Allen, they're rhythm guys. They got to get in the rhythm of the game. And you call so many penalties on the offense as far as that went tonight. You can't get in one. It's impossible to get in one. Like, you just can't. It's awful.
Yeah,
yes, you saw in that last drive where the Bills went down and got 3 right after the once they went down, when they went down and took the lead for good, they went rhythm early in that drive. They went the run to Ray Davis, and they went right back to Ray Davis, like, super fast. And you could just tell that we joked about it, Mario, right? Like, they seem overdue for a penalty here, a flag, right? And then they got the roughing the passer call. So, yeah, I mean, I think rhythm was a huge piece of it. You saw in that first drive, Buffalo opened, and they just went right down the field, and it was just all rhythm, timing, pressing when they needed to press, and I thought they did a good job with that early, and then they kind of went away from it.
Well, and I think it became like a strategy, at some point right near the end of the first half, where it seemed like they're like, well, listen, let's just hawk it deep because they're calling everything tonight. So we're just going to move the ball that way, because that was a very effective offensive strategy. It was just throw deep and then something will get called. Like, it's tonight, something's going to get called.
Very early in the game, it was like they weren't going to, because we've seen Buffalo Bills cornerbacks, Douglas and Benford been very, very physical all year. And you didn't see that tonight. And really early in the game, they were calling Liz ticky-tack pass interference call. I'm like, listen, if Brady's got to be seeing this. If he's seeing this and seeing how the game is being played down on the field, you need to start throwing up some passes to draw some of these penalties. And not as much as I would like, but another thing too, and I don't know if you guys noticed this during the game too, I didn't see the Jets blitz too much. And that seemed to be a problem with this offensive line over the last 2 losses that they had, was when there was heat brought, the lack of separation by these wide receivers. I didn't see the Jets bring a lot of pressure tonight. And if they did, Allen was able to escape and get something done. But what do you guys think? I didn't see them blitz too much tonight.
Well, I was going to say, Joe, I mean, I think the Jets kind of depend on Quinnen Williams to do a lot of the dirty work, and Buffalo really had a plan for him tonight. But let's not forget, in that first half, Josh got himself out of some really bad pocket situations and pulled off some nice passes. So, a lesser average NFL quarterbacks probably would have been a little bit more gobbled up at. So I respectfully kind of disagree a little bit more, because Josh in the first half got himself out of some pretty bad situations. And Joe, I think you probably speak to that the best.
Well, yeah, I mean, Josh Allen's always going to be Josh Allen and get yourself out of these situations. But the Jets' MO is not to blitz a whole lot. Like, that's just what the Jets' defense normally does. Now, when they do blitz, they win at a high percentage. But the reason why that is because that's, I think, I don't know what this year is, but I think last year they won like at over 50% win rate, which is huge. But one of the reasons why that is because they don't blitz that much regularly. And, we didn't know what to expect from a Jets team without Robert Saleh there, but we couldn't expect too much of a change at this point, just because of how new everything was. So I wasn't expecting to see a whole lot of blitzes, and we saw last week with Houston, the spy in the middle of the field against Josh Allen worked really well. Problem for the Jets was they just didn't have a guy who could keep up, and the defensive end, especially the last play of the game, just wasn't keeping contained, and so he was able to break free when he needed to. But yeah, Josh Allen was able to keep a lot of plays alive with his feet, especially that play to Knox in the end zone, getting him his first touchdown. Josh got hit pretty early on that play, was able to get away from it, and then throw the touchdown pass.
Yeah, a comment that I want to call out here. Like says Josh with the heads-up play to snap the ball as he notices the Jets had 12 players on the field. On the road, that's impressive. Right? Because when you're at home, I think that's something you could probably get off a little bit easier. But on the road, opponent stadium, noise issues, to get that snap off, that's impressive stuff. I don't know if that's quarterback Josh Allen you see 2 years ago. But I think it's something that you're supposed to expect at this point, right, Ryan? Like, you're supposed to expect that.
I mean, to Mario's point, though, this is a Josh we haven't seen really up until tonight, where it's like free play, chuck it downfield, let's see if my guy can come up with it or I can get a flag, right? He did the same thing early in the game where they drew it was kind of I think it was a double flag situation, but he just hucked it up there and Mac Hollins got hit and drew the flag, right? Like we don't see Josh often do it, and I can't really remember him doing it until maybe tonight, where he had 3 or 4 times tonight where he just threw it downfield and figured, hey, they'll throw the flag on this, or they won't, right? But it's a free play.
Yeah,
it's almost a maturity opportunity for Josh, and we're starting to see like glimpses of it. The guys, he's 6 games in, he hasn't thrown a pick this season. Like there's growth going on with this guy this season, and I don't know if it's getting noticed as much as it probably should by a lot of people that are covering the team.
It's weird because he's not putting the ball in harm's way, even with his receivers not getting separation. He's not forcing it to any one receiver, like he was with Diggs. It seemed like a lot last year and in the previous years. But he's also not running because that hand's still bothering him. In other situations, he'd have been taken off. He would have 10 to 12 carries a game in the situations that he's been put in this year. And now he's just not. He's just kind of sometimes, like you said, right? He's living to play another play. He's like, all right, let me get outside this pocket and just chuck it.
You saw
in the 4th row. You know what I mean?
Yeah, Mario. I mean, we talked about it before the game started, where we talked about the 2 sacks, right? And then I went back to they called the Quinnen Williams one at the end there. That was a sack. The one. I think that play of any, if you go back and watch it on the All 22, like that goes to the hand injury more than any play I've seen of him thus far, because there was hesitation there. Like that was an empty set for the Bills. The Jets immediately emptied their linebackers. Immediately went to the flats with their linebackers. If that Josh isn't hurt, he takes that ball and goes right up the middle right away. But he hesitated, and that hesitation allowed Williams to get to him. Otherwise, he scores on that play. Like if Williams doesn't make that play, he scores. But the hesitation let him get there, and I think that's because of the injury that he's not willing to take off as quick as he maybe should or could in the past.
Yeah, and that's twofold too, because the league's seen that, and Brady better see it too. The fact that he's not taking off immediately right up the middle. But just real quick, guys, I want to give you guys. I got a text from Ryan over at Jets Talk 24/7.
Yeah, 24/7.
Yeah, Bills Mafia. If you guys want to peek behind the Jets curtain, Ryan's a great follow on YouTube. He said that was ugly. You guys got screwed on a bunch of penalties. I thought we got, on a few pass interference calls, but overall we didn't execute. You beat us in the trenches, and that's coming directly from a Jets Guy covers the Jets.
Well,
So
I mean, let's be honest. The left tackle holding with the Jets in the red zone changed the game. Like
Yeah,
Braylon
absolutely.
Allen scores that touchdown. This is a completely different game.
100%. 100%. Yeah, I agree. Because it puts the pressure
They
back on
walked away
Buffalo.
with no points. Oh, they walked away with no points, right?
Yeah.
Right. Missed the
Then
field goal.
field goal got doinked.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it was just a really bad performance all around by the officials. I mean, I thought there were the calls on both sides where I was like, what are we doing? Like that first Mac Hollins pass interference, like
Yeah.
that ball was 8 yards out of bounds. Like what are we doing? Not at calling that and allowing that play to stand. And then it just seemed like the roughing the passer call on Allen was a makeup call for not calling the pass or calling pass interference on the previous drive. And it's just like, I feel like the refs just kind of got caught in quicksand early, and they just couldn't rebound from like, oh, we got to make up for this call. Oh, we got to make up for this call. And it's just like, now there's just flags. They're throwing flags on TV timeouts.
Well, I mean, that's what I mean, right? So clearly there was some chippiness going on tonight. Do you think that was just a reaction of we're going to control this game? We're going to show you that we control this game? Because a ton of holding penalties, like...
Yeah, I mean, maybe Joe, like going into games, like you do that scouting on these teams, right? Like these teams don't like each other. You make a conscious decision as a ref crew, where like we're going to control this. You do the same thing when I ref basketball. Like we know what the rival teams are. We know who's going to be problems, and it's like, all right, guys, we're either going to let them play or we're going to try and control it early by calling some ticky-tack 50-50 type of calls and see if we can control things that way. And I mean, maybe it was just a bad night. Like, the NFL refs aren't great. So when they have a bad night, it's exponential. And the fact that it's on Monday Night Football, the only game that's on, like, Goodell, I cannot imagine is not fielding calls from NFL owners right now and NFL sponsors going, what the hell happened tonight?
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I go back to that. There was a unnecessary roughness penalty, I believe, on Spencer Brown, or maybe, I think it was on Spencer Brown in the third quarter, right? And I talked on a live chat, and I was like, because I didn't think that was unnecessary roughness, but probably what happened was those two guys were going at it all night long. And I'm sure the officials were in their ear early on saying, guys, stop, guys, relax, guys, calm down, back to your huddle. And it was a little behind the play, and it was after the ball was released. So that at that point, they're like, we're throwing this flag now. It's just a really bad look to wait that long to throw that flag. You need to throw that flag in the first quarter on the first drive to get the game back in control. They obviously lost control, tried to get it back, but Ryan, as a NBA or as a basketball official, me as a football official, you guys, Mario, you played. Once an official loses control, you can't get it back. No matter how many flags you throw, you can't get it back. You lost it, and that's what it seemed like they were trying to do. And then, the roughing the passer on Allen almost, and I said it during the stream, seemed like a makeup call. The pass interference on Bernard when they said, when McDermott was saying it was uncatchable. I was watching the play. I was like, where's the pass interference? So even if it is catchable, where was the pass interference? I think they lost control early. And then a young crew just didn't realize, and maybe a crew that was a little scared of losing control on Monday Night Football didn't realize they can't get this game back. So.
Joe, I always had a question. You being a referee, sometimes when they decide to throw a flag and it's a questionable pass interference call, and the ball isn't catchable, and then they confer. Do they sometimes do the fallback onto defensive holding instead of calling pass interference?
To Ryan's point, the first pass interference when it was 8 yards out of bounds. Paul and I talked about the halftime. I thought they were going to call defensive holding, right? Because the guy's holding his arm halfway down the field. So I thought defensive holding. In high school, at least, there's no such thing as uncatchable ball. That term doesn't exist in high school. Imagine how happy that makes the coaches. But that term just does not exist. But there are certain phrases you can use to say they're both going for the ball. The ball was above them both when they made contact. But when we have conversations on the field, it's more a determination of, are you like, if the official who threw the flag comes in and says, yes, this is what I had, it has that, no doubt about it, it was a flag, then no one overturns them. But it's when they start questioning themselves, we're like, wait, so you didn't see what you saw, put the flag in your pocket.
Yeah.
Absolutely nothing spoke to the level of competency of the officiating crew tonight than the 7-minute conversation they had over whether it was a neutral zone infraction on the Tyler Bass field goal.
Icing Tyler Bass without the Jets needing to take time out.
The absolute hell was that? It took them like a legitimate 7 minutes to talk through that. And to Ryan's point, like if you're a sponsor, man, what are we doing with the cameras on the refs while they just try and sort this thing out? You know, like it was just you watch the coaching staff on either sideline. Every time they pan to the coaching staff, coaches have just, they're snake bitten. They don't know what the hell's going on out there because it seems so random all game. And it was just absolutely brutal. But I do want to bring up something that DF had mentioned in the chat. It says, question for Mario, who is better, Davis or Cook? Cook is more proven, but still, are we on the cusp of a running back controversy in Buffalo?
You would start that. No, I just responded to him in the chat. I said, listen, the way that this offensive line and Aaron Cromer has got this line working, any back that just doesn't dance back there and hits the hole really hard is going to have a lot of success running behind this line right now. I think Cook is a little bit more explosive than Davis. I think Davis is more powerful, if that makes sense to you guys. So as far as hands go, I mean, I think Davis showed you his hands tonight, and we've had questions on Cook's hands. But the biggest question always is with any running back that's going to play. And Paul, you said this many times, the admission at the Josh Allen Fun Park is high. Which one of these two guys can pick up pass pro on third down when they have to stay in? That's the biggest question going to be, is how quickly can he pick up pass pro? And because we've seen Cook do it a few times now this season. Most of the times he's out in a route because he's so explosive and it opens up more things for your receivers. But I think, the Bills have a wonderful problem in the backfield right now where you have two guys that are that explosive. Plus you add Ty Johnson into the mix who just doesn't care. Like he's like the Taylor Rapp of the offense. He will run into a brick wall however many times you ask him to. So it was really good to see. And he always has a little spring in his step when he plays against the Jets, being a former Jet himself. So it was fun
I
to
think
watch
and I mean Mario from an offensive, like a play calling standpoint, a personnel standpoint, I don't know that Cook necessarily is going to cede snaps to Davis. What I would expect to see is more two running back formations. Maybe Davis in the backfield, Cook's lined up in the slot, because we saw a lot from him in college where he lined up in the slot as a receiving back, a receiving threat. And let's be honest, I mean, this Bills team has had issues finding pass catchers that can create separation. And James Cook can certainly create separation, right? Like he's quick, he's explosive, he's shifty, in open space. Like maybe there's an opportunity there for him to kind of get some versatility to his game, or even Davis wide, right? Like Davis can catch the ball really well. He can run routes. Like I think it just adds to some versatility that maybe Brady may have. Maybe not now, but maybe as we approach the bye week, maybe that's something that he thinks about starting to install, where it's like, listen, these two tight end sets really aren't working, right? Like I got to pick a tight end. Curtis Samuel, the experiment's not working out. Like we weren't able to trade for a wide receiver, heaven forbid, if they actually don't pull the trigger on a wide receiver. Like Joe Brady's going to have to figure out how to become explosive, because you can't be the offensive coordinator who again fails, because then you go into the Ken Dorsey bucket, and like that can't happen for Joe Brady. So he's going to have to figure out ways that if Bean can't pull off a trade, to maximize the skill guys he has, and Cook and Davis may be two of the best 4 skill guys that they have on this team, in which case they both need to be on the field at the same time.
Yeah, and it's not like a drop off like you said in previous years when they had Cook and Latavius Murray. Like you knew
right,
when
nobody
Latavius
was
Murray
worried
came
about
into
Murray
the
out
game,
of the backfield,
yeah,
right?
You
like,
knew what he was doing if he was in there. Like he's going to sit up there and he's going to block whoever's blitzing.
Like,
or
I wonder what Murray's going to do on this down. Or
yeah,
like
exactly.
Paul, when they would bring like the one game they brought Leonard Fournette in, right? Like, I wonder what's going to happen here. Like 3 yards in a cloud of dust.
It was almost like the Isaiah McKenzie deal. Like every time he came in, like he played 12 snaps a game, he's going to do a jet sweep on 3 of them. Like we know,
and walk away with 6 targets.
And he's going to be the decoy on jet sweeps on the other ones.
Were you guys concerned today that on a couple blitzing downs. Yes.
The answer's immediately yes.
A lot of concern tonight.
No, a couple of the blitzing downs, Allen was defaulting to Mac Hollins instead of Curtis Samuel, who has experience with Brady, except for your rookie wideout, who is there because he can win 50-50 balls, or a guy that's supposed to be your speed demon in MVS. Like, you're defaulting to Mac Hollins, or not even Kincaid.
So I think I could speak to that, right? So one of the reasons why Mac Hollins was looked at relatively often is because, one, he only knows how to run about 2 routes, and 2, both of them are covered by a safety who was out, right? So the starting safety goes out pretty early in the game. So Mac Hollins was a numbers game issue, right? You look at where Mac Hollins was targeted, and he was in front of a reserve safety. Like that. That's why.
Yeah.
That's the deal there. Like that's what happened.
Yeah, but I mean, maybe, but I mean, he was also the primary target last week, right? Mm-hmm. Like, this isn't new that Mac Hollins is the primary target. He's been the primary target since Khalil Shakir went down, and I talked about it during the Houston game. I still feel this way. Like, this is malpractice in my opinion. That Mac Hollins is your top target guy in this offense. Like, Mac Hollins is supposed to be like a 4 wide receiver set, special teams ace, 4 wide receiver, guy who's like gonna get 30 balls thrown his way a year. He cannot be your primary target. It can't happen. Well, and the fact that he is, I mean, speaks to like the question of whose decision was it to draft Dalton Kincaid and extend Dawson Knox? Like, whose decision was that you were going to run 22 personnel? Or did you just take Dalton Kincaid and you're like, we'll figure it out? Because either way, that's not great. It's not a good reflection on Brandon Beane. And if he fails to trade for a wide receiver when this team is desperately, obviously missing a wide receiver, there needs to be serious questions that are asked.
I've tried to interrupt you 3 times now. Stop talking. All right. So two points I want to make. First, tomorrow's question, I have more concern about tonight's game, thinking that Khalil Shakir maybe was not 100%, right? And that might have been an issue because he was only targeted 3 times in tonight's game. But the second thing, or 2 times, but the second thing is, even though you guys are talking about Mac Hollins being the go-to guy, so to speak, he only had 2 targets tonight. I mean, there were 2 big targets, right? Both of them towards the end zone, but he only had 2 targets out of 25. So, Allen's still spreading the ball around decently enough. Kincaid was the leading guy in targets with 7. So I'm not sure. Exactly.
But Joe, the pass interference penalties that he drew erased those targets, right? Like, those aren't targets.
Yeah, that's right.
I was just going to say
he had 3 balls thrown his way that resulted in flags.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So he had 5 targets in totality.
Right.
Yeah, and the times he had those targets were in crucial moments when Allen was facing a blitz or something was happening, and he went to him by default. And it's. I just don't. You got
the slant route in the end zone, the slant route in the end zone. Mm-hmm. Why is that not Coleman?
Mm-hmm.
Like,
I don't know. I don't have a good answer for you. But
because that was the first read on that route, right? But yeah, I'm just and he's able to beat the defender, but Coleman's able to catch that ball that's thrown a little bit higher. Or even, again, Shakir, I don't know why he's not in there on that route because, he's catching everything thrown his way. So he'd catch that. But
yeah, he's coming back, though. I mean, he just came back off of injury. But you had 23 total targets today, 11 to receivers and 12 to backs and tight ends.
Well, let's not live in a world where we think the Bills don't know that their receiver room is a nightmare scenario right now because they're carrying 4 receivers on their practice squad. Like, they're very aware that the receiver room's a problem, right? The issue is I don't think they know how to fix it, right? Like, this has never been an area of strength for McDermott ever, ever. So, I just don't think Beane and McDermott know what to do here because, you got Khalil Shakir. That was a 5th-round pick. Congratulations. You tried to do the same thing with Gabe Davis. I had Isaiah Hodges. You've always kind of been bargain basement shopping for wide receivers. Then you look around and you're shocked when all of them are just kind of, they're just kind of okay guys, right? But the Buffalo's just never been able to figure out the wide receiver position, and you can't depend on Keon Coleman. I'll be honest, I like Keon, but Keon, I think he's learning very quickly. You can't just manhandle NFL corners like you could when you were at FSU. There's a big difference between play speed and the physicality, and that is obvious because you don't see him winning routes. You just don't. You don't see Curtis Samuel even running routes. Like you're very, very limited in scope as far as this offense is concerned right now, and that's a Brady problem. You got to fix that because they're throwing resources at the position. Yeah, are they great resources? No, listen, I'm not hanging my hat on Terrell Shavers. Like, I don't think he's going to save the season, but at some point you got to see what else is in the kitchen here because you know what this is, and you know that this is not sustainable.
No, it's not. But what is the solution? Is it Amari Cooper? Is it Devontae Adams? Is it Deontay Johnson? Like what?
It's just like
what
like
does
any of the above?
Yes,
right? Really?
Any
Yeah,
of the above. I think the problem.
Any port in a storm.
Yeah, I mean the problem with this, right, is like this concept of like everybody eats, right? Like everybody eats is a wonderful concept, but when push comes to shove, right? Like Brady has Gronk, like Mahomes has Kelsey. Mahomes had Tyreek Hill. Like Peyton Manning had T.Y. Hilton, and prior to that, he had Marvin Harrison. Like at the end of the day, you've got to go. You got to have a guy to go to when the going gets tough. It's 3rd and 6. You need a first down. You got to have a guy. And if you don't want it to be Diggs, that's fine. If he's mouthy, if he's a diva, if he's frustrated and he doesn't want to be there, that's fine. But you got to go get another one, right? Like you can't. Mac Hollins can't be your 3rd and 6 guy. It can't happen. You're not going to win football games that way. Every quarterback, every great quarterback, go down the list. Mario, you're an encyclopedia with this stuff. Go down the list. Every great quarterback who's ever played this football game, you can name a receiver that played with them that they went to when the going got tough. Right, and Josh doesn't have that. Did you hope that Dalton Kincaid was going to be that? Yeah, you probably hoped that, but he's not yet, right? So you got to go get one until he is. Do you hope Keon Coleman's that? Sure, but he's not there yet. And if you're going to win now, and you're not going to waste another year of this guy's prime as the one of the best quarterbacks we've ever seen play the football game, you got to go get a guy. And I don't care who it is. Pick one. Go to Josh and just say, hey, Josh, we can get any of these 4 guys. Who do you want to throw the football to? And go get them.
But Ryan, regrettably, and I'm going to say this with a little bit of malice in my tone, so excuse the tone. Believe I am a Bills fan, right? Okay. I don't see a scenario where any of the 3 players that you mentioned are actually real candidates because I just don't have trust in the fact that they won't call Tennessee and see if they'll trade DeAndre Hopkins for a 5th round pick. You know what I mean? Like DeAndre Hopkins played like 37% of snaps this season, right? But that's what you're going to get, right? That's what they're going to be willing to give up, and that's what you're going to get. Is you're going to get a 32-year-old DeAndre Hopkins from Tennessee who is going to be able to run some routes, kind of maybe, right? Like that's what I see them doing.
You're right on, Paul, right? Like because what I outlined is what they should do, right? And what I outlined is what a team who's bent on winning football games and bent on winning a Super Bowl should do, right? Like we're seeing the Jets do it, right? Like the Jets are in on Devontae Adams. Why? Because they need another guy on their roster, so they're in on him, right? Like you've seen the Lions just lost Aiden Hutchinson last night. They're already on the phone trying to find a defensive end, right? Like good teams make a move to fill a hole, but unfortunately, we have not seen Bean show a willingness throughout the time that he's been in Buffalo to make a move and go get a guy that you need, right? And it's just like he got lucky with Rasul Douglas, right? That trade has worked out pretty well so far. But let's not pretend that Rasul Douglas was tops on the list of corners that people were like, well, if he's available, you got to go get him, right? Like he just makes these moves that are like, if they work out, really great. If they didn't, then it's not going to kill us because we didn't give up a ton for him. So I'm right there with you. I don't think that they're going to make a move for a wide receiver, but that doesn't mean that not going and doing it shouldn't be considered just absolutely unexcusable from a GM.
Because what it does from an offensive standpoint is if you have that guy, defenses will shift coverage. We've seen it with Diggs. They will shift coverage toward that guy. And who else can eat? You know what I mean? With the Gabe Davis 4 touchdown game against Kansas City, that basically gave him that contract in Jacksonville. That's what you have. Okay, so now if they shift coverages over to that, who's your next guy that can be open? I think the Bills are thinking, because they have 17 back there and because he is progressing and he is maturing, could he be one of those guys where he's like, hey, if they don't know where we're going with the ball, we can go anywhere with the ball. I don't personally like that philosophy, but I think that's what they're thinking. And
yeah, I mean they're hoping.
It's upsetting.
Yeah, it is. They're hoping they can be the exception and not the rule.
Yeah,
and I think one of the reasons is because they hit on Allen, right? Like nobody thought Allen was going to work out because guys that are inaccurate in college don't suddenly become accurate. They don't suddenly become great quarterbacks. Guys that run his way break down, and like he hasn't so far. And it's the same fallacy that the Jets are doing with Aaron Rodgers, right? Because Brady played until he was 45 years old. So it's like, well, that's the new norm for quarterbacks, right? Like they're not Peyton Manning who, can't lift his head up off the pillow on his own at 38. They're Tom Brady who are winning Super Bowls at 44. Like that's what Aaron Rodgers is going to be. Achilles injury be damned. It's either an ignorance or a hubris, and I don't think either one is a good solution for a front office to have.
Mm-hmm.
No, it's not. I think you need another weapon for Allen, and I think it kind of hits the panic button for Brady too, because if the fact is, if they go out and get one of these wide receivers, they're admitting that he can't use them guys within his system that he currently has, and he can't scheme them open and do things like that for him.
Yeah, but again, Mar, like that's not a problem, right? Like it's not a weakness to say that I need an alpha receiver, right? Because everyone needs one. Who doesn't want Justin Jefferson, right? Like who doesn't want?
Yeah.
Like, let's take everything out of the equation. The way that this offense has looked preseason, right? They get rid of Diggs. If they would have gone out and gotten Amari Cooper before the season started, would anyone have said, well, Brady must not be able to scheme guys open? No, they would have been like, they lost Diggs, they had to replace him, and they went and got an alpha. Like, there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
Just because you admit it mid-season versus before the season starts doesn't mean that it's an indictment.
Or if they traded up during the draft.
The indictment would be as if they go and get a guy like Cooper and he still can't do anything with this offense. Like, that would be an indictment of the offensive coordinator.
So... yeah. Let me change the narrative a little bit, right? So I think, again, the faith that I'm hearing is that Buffalo is not going to identify the need at wide receiver quite the way that fans are going to be satisfied with, right? So let's just put on an island 2 players, right? Again, DeAndre Hopkins is absolutely on the table. Tennessee's going to look to get something because they're starting nobody at quarterback. And then you look at Dallas, and Dallas is going to be real quick to pull the ripcord here. Real quick. Mm-hmm. And you have a 31-year-old Brandon Cooks there. That, again, he's contract year. Dallas is at some point going to pull the ripcord and say, let's just get something, right? Do either of those players move the needle for you?
So DeAndre Hopkins or Brandon Cooks?
Yeah. Because those are probably your more realistic options.
Yeah, Brandon Cook's not even healthy right now, though. Like, he's not even playing.
Well, that's what I'm saying. But Dallas is going to pull the ripcord here in a week or two, right? Like,
if they're going to pull the rip, I'll take Jalen Tolbert if they want to cut the ripcord there. Like, I'm okay with that.
They're not gonna
I mean, if the Titans want to cut the Calvin Ridley experiment short after 6 weeks with the statements that he had after the game yesterday, like I'd be okay with that.
I got to get some freaking
that's
targets.
A $92 million contract. That is not going to happen.
Yeah, right.
It's not going to happen.
I mean, if I had to pick one of the two, like if gun to my head, it's DeAndre Hopkins or Brandon Cooks, and they both cost the same. Like, give me DeAndre Hopkins. That's fine. Like, guys like him with technique and like that short box type of route running in order to get open, like they tend to age better than a guy like Brandon Cooks, who's always been undersized at the position and has excelled because he's able to get open and create separation. Like he's John Brown, right? Like he's a little bit more talented of John Brown is what Brandon Cooks is. And
hopefully you think that him in the same room as Coleman, he can give him some of those pointers. And I know mentor gets thrown around a lot. Like these guys, this is their job. It's a business. He's not going to sit there and sit there and watch film with Keon Coleman to make sure he gets everything. Keon Coleman's going to kind of have to learn from attrition. Now some guys do. some guys realize they're at the end of the rope, and they realize, okay, this Hopkins coming here was going to be like, he's going to be a breath of fresh air. He's playing with a quarterback. He's got this offense. It's high. It's supposedly can do amazing things when it wants to. Just the last, the 2 weeks prior to tonight, it wasn't doing it. But that's one of the things you can have with a DeAndre Hopkins is hopefully that Coleman is a sponge and just takes in everything that this guy does and sees how he goes about his business, and then he can then apply those things for Josh Allen in the future. So, I just want to talk about really quick.
Everything.
Penalties aside, you have a quarterback that you faced tonight that had 300 yards passing. You gave up 2 100-yard receivers that both scored touchdowns and a 100-yard back, and you still beat the team that you played. Is this a quintessential penalties aside, Sean McDermott, bend but don't break type of defense today? Because he only caused 1 turnover, which happened 2.5 minutes to go in the game. Like this seemed like a Kansas City game because they couldn't force any turnovers, and you couldn't get to the quarterback. I mean, you got to him twice, but other than that, you really couldn't do a lot because the Bills were tipping their hand defensively quite a bit. And then Rodgers was just using long counts, and once he knew the coverage, it was over. So did it seem like that? I mean, Joe, when you were calling it, did it seem like one of those bend but don't break type of games out of the Bills defense tonight?
Well, I would say that I had going into the game, my final score prediction was 23-9, and what I said in the pregame was I could easily see the Jets moving the ball well, but not able to get into the end zone. And even though they got into the end zone a couple times, they had trouble. 1 for 4 inside the red zone. They couldn't get the ball into the end zone. Obviously, if they're able to do that, then they win this game. If there's no holding, like Paul said earlier, it changes the game's completely different. Now, is that a matter of Sean McDermott's defense bending and not breaking, or is that more mistakes made by the Jets? And in this game, I lean more mistakes made by the Jets than I do. Now, McDermott's defense did a good job of taking advantage of those mistakes. And listen, they only allowed 3 points in the second half, so you have to give credit for that. But they allowed 2 more field goal attempts that were both no good. Both posts got hit. But yeah, I believe that this was more saying how bad the Jets are at not shooting themselves in the foot than the Buffalo Bills defense was at making plays. Rap was huge. You can talk about that all day, obviously. But I think the blame here needs to go. The Jets lost this game, a game they shouldn't have been in my opinion, if it wasn't for the officials and the Hail Mary. But they lost themselves this game, not so much the Bills defense rising and winning this game.
Well, and I think we keep talking about Sean McDermott, but McDermott is very much allowing Babbage to fail, which is a right that most young defensive coordinators don't always get, with a defensive head coach, So I give McDermott credit for the fact that he's letting Babbage fail. With that being said, I'm sure I would love to hear Ryan's retort to that. But the fact of the matter is you still have a very young coaching staff here. And the fact that you've kind of skated through the learning curve here is great. But I just simply can't continue to watch Dorian Williams get absolutely dog water depth on crossing routes anymore. He just gets sucked right out. I'm just getting so frustrated watching him. Thank God Terrell Bernard was in tonight because Dorian Williams driving me absolutely crazy. Love him in run support, right? But he treats every play like he's in run support, and every single play. I'm just so frustrated watching that, and that's something that Babbage was a linebacker coach. He was the safeties coach. He was the linebackers coach. That has to get fixed, and it's not. And that tells me that there's a lot of other moving pieces that just aren't getting addressed in real time because things are still moving too fast.
Who was the guy that you always used to talk about, Paul? That used to tackle the
Nigel Bradham.
By their nameplate.
Nigel Bradham. Yeah. Nigel Bradham couldn't mind the cutback lane. That's what it was.
Yeah. You could talk about Dorian Williams being amongst the leading tacklers in the league, but where are those tackles happening? They're 5-6 yards downfield.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, and I mean, Paul. I mean, the only retort that I would bring up to that is when we talk about allowing Babbage to fail. The problem that I have with it is it's the same failures that we've been watching for the last 8 years that McDermott's been the head coach, right? Like, that's why I'm not entirely convinced that this is all Babich on the defensive side of the ball. Like, I still feel like McDermott in tight spots, I don't think he's quite willing to let the young guy. He panics too much in the tight moments to allow Babich to call the defense entirely in those moments. And we're still seeing, 20 yards off the ball when the other team needs 7, and guarding the sideline when they're throwing a Hail Mary. Like, those are McDermott type of calls. We've been watching them, right? Like that. I just find it hard to believe that it's defensive coordinator after defensive coordinator has come through this team, and they're still making the same mistakes, and they're McDermott mistakes. So that would be my only retort to it. Like, it's too. We've seen it too many times. Like, I know how the story ends.
Well, Ryan, Babich spent 2011 and 2012 in Carolina, and came over with McDermott in 2017. So he learned everything he knows from him. That's why it looks so damn similar.
So either McDermott's still calling plays in tight moments, or he's just such a bad teacher of other coaches that he taught Babich how to be a terrible defensive coordinator in tight moments. One of the two is true. Well,
I hope he teaches them the halftime adjustments too. I hope that's what's being taught, because those seem to be working to this point.
That is the one. They make really good second half adjustments. Like, they are absolutely a second half defense, and it's maddening to watch. And I have to continue to remind myself that they're a second half defense.
So I have a quick question for you about while talking about McDermott. I was really nervous that when McDermott threw the challenge flag on the fumble, that was a fumble that wasn't called a fumble, that was booth reviewed, and I was concerned that he just cost the Bills a timeout. Do you think he knew that it was safe to throw a challenge flag and he won't cost his team a timeout, or do you think he got lucky and that's just how the rule works? Because back not too long ago, if you threw the challenge flag and you weren't allowed to, you lost the timeout.
Lost the timeout, yeah, because it's not like his offense could have used that in the final minutes. Like that, that was the refs bailing him out. Like the refs were so bad all night that probably should have cost him a timeout. Like, no, it's not reviewable. You can't throw one.
Right.
I have so many questions about this former official that's in his ear telling
John
him
Perry?
when to challenge stuff. Like,
yeah.
And somebody made a comment on Twitter, like, because I said, why is he challenging that? And somebody commented on it, and they were like, well, he's got a former official in his ear telling him to challenge it. I'm like, is that the same former official that told him not to challenge the Kincaid catch and the Cook catch last week? Because I don't want anything to do with this guy anymore if he's the one that's out here deciding whether he's challenging or not. Like, there's discretion. Like, it's okay to listen to the people in your ear, but like sometimes you have to have some discretion to it too. And yeah, I mean, I think he absolutely got bailed out there, and it would not have wound up bothering them, right? Like, they didn't need that timeout at the end of this football game, but they could have. It was a 3-point game.
Right, they could have.
Yeah, it's a simple fact is this: you just had a positive play defensively. Okay, you didn't get the fumble that you wanted, but you have to realize, like you said, Ryan, some discretion. You're probably you wasted one with 12 minutes to go in the third quarter. You only got 2 left. If they go down and score a touchdown, you're gonna need both. You're gonna need both of them at some point, because it opens up your playbook a little bit more. If you only have one, kind of hard to game plan for stuff like that if you're Joe Brady. So
but maybe the other defense will take the sidelines away, Mario.
Oh God! Don't even start.
So I think what ended up happening with the McDermott challenge was they booth reviewed, overturned, and at that point, play clock's running. Right? Like, they said, "Hey, we're going to overturn it. Okay, let's go." And McDermott just threw the challenge flag because the refs made a call on the field and then announced it was being overturned, and it wasn't explained to McDermott. He threw the challenge flag to say, nobody's talked to me about this. You just made a call. You just altered that call from the booth, and now the play clock's running. That's not good enough for me, right? So, again, I think it's risky, but at the same token, McDermott doesn't strike me like someone who is going to be bothered by the fact that he doesn't have the timeouts that he should have, right? Like, we've seen this movie before.
Do you think Brady's ever screaming into the headset, Sean, you may not care about the timeouts, but I do. Damn it.
I'm pretty confident that he would not say that, Sean McDermott. But defensive splits, so not including tonight. So let's play a game real quick. How many first half rushing touchdowns have the Bills given up, excluding the game tonight? Coming into tonight, the number of first half rushing touchdown the Bills have given up.
6.
4.
I was going to say 6, so I'll go 5.
3. Now, let's talk second half. How many rushing touchdowns in the second half? Equal number of plays, by the way. So the equal number of plays. So there's not a lot of discretion here. Discrepancy.
3, and then second half, I'm gonna go with 6 again. I'll try 6, even though they have been better.
I'll go 4 second half.
I was gonna go 3.
1.
Wow.
They've given up 4 rushing touchdowns all year.
Yeah. Right.
Wow.
Well,
Going
and
into tonight.
Coming into tonight, and they've given up 6 passing touchdowns. Only one of them has been in the second half.
Right.
So they've only given up 2 second half touchdowns the entire year coming into tonight.
Right.
Well, counting tonight too.
Yeah.
I guess.
And the
I
rushing
guess I'd be leaving
touchdowns haven't
tonight.
changed either.
Yeah. That's as per Pro Football Reference. So,
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That's what I mean. The second half Bills are real. You just got to get there.
How many field goals? 18.
She doesn't give me the field goals, but I will say that the Bills have. Let's see here. They have only 3 sacks in the first half of games and 10 in the second half.
Going into
I guess sacks are a number. I guess it could be a little skewed because Buffalo's had some pretty sizable leads. So I suppose that number could be a bit.
Well, that's what I said tonight. They put up a stat in the fourth quarter. Said the Jets haven't allowed a fourth quarter TD yet this season. I was like, yeah, but in a lot of those games, the team's playing their backups because they've gotten beat up pretty bad in some of those games.
We're trying to go home.
Yeah, but Mario, I mean, even if the Bills have given up a lot of field goals in the second half, that's still a situation that you like putting Josh Allen in, saying, hey, just go score some touchdowns. We're right back in this game. Yeah,
but to Ryan's point, it's been one of those things that's been a theme. Mm-hmm. I mean, prior to the Ravens game, it's been 40-some games that they're always within 1 score.
Yeah.
And good coaches can get you off of some of those losses. They can get you wins out of those. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And McDermott hasn't really been able to do that. He's been relying on 17 quite a bit. And I mean, obviously, if you're in a 1-score game and you got Josh Allen with the ball last, I like your odds. Mm-hmm. But sometimes it shouldn't be a 1-score game because then he's trying to do it all alone by himself with 1 timeout. He's got 55 seconds. You know, it's really tough to. Yeah. Not a lot of things in the playbook to call. No, when you got that time and stuff.
It's funny. So. I listened to Aaron Rodgers post game talking about how the Jets should have had 30 points in this game and it shouldn't be a conversation. And I was thinking the same thing about the Bills. I was like, no, the Bills should have had 30 points. You guys shouldn't have had anything, and this shouldn't be a conversation. But
can we? Are we ready to declare Aaron Rodgers done? Like, he's done, right? Like, he hasn't thrown a 300-yard game since 2021.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
he had some pretty nice balls today, though, right? Like the one.
Giggity.
He had one.
Jeez,
he had
Joe.
one.
Which one? Which one
in the morning, bro?
The one that Lazard.
Welcome to hashtag After Dark, guys.
The one that Lazard caught off of Bernard's muff.
Bernard, yeah.
That was wild.
Nice. That was nice.
That was wild.
But Bernard had
even the nice balls, like that was the only one that I really felt had zip to it.
Mm-hmm.
Like Mario, it just seems like he's just not zipping it out there. It feels like he doesn't have his legs under him. Like,
it seemed like he did on that Hail Mary. Yeah. He definitely had enough juice behind that Hail Mary.
There were 2 rushers. I mean, he got 3 crow hops in, right? And he only had to throw it 52 yards.
Well, but you see the arc on it? Yeah. It was insane, like what he was able. But I agree with you. He is, what's the saying? The body is the mind is willing, but the body is whatever. It's like he knows where he's going to go with the ball every play, and he knows the game. There's not a defense that he hasn't seen or he can't diagnose or whatever. But it just seems like sometimes, and it's hard to say after a guy went 23 for 35 for almost 300 yards. That the guy's done. There's a lot of quarterbacks in the league would like to be done like that. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. But it just speaks to the guy's greatness that he's had over the years and how he's been able to diagnose and figure out defenses.
Yeah, I mean, but Mario, the stat that I talked about before the show went on the air, right? Like Zach Wilson
Yeah.
Like this is the exact same Jets team that you had last year with Zach Wilson under center.
Mm-hmm.
I read the stat out for Paul and Joe. You guys weren't on the broadcast yet. Through 6 games last season with Zach Wilson at quarterback, the Jets had scored 113 points. Through 6 games this season with Aaron Rodgers at quarterback, the Jets have scored 113 points. They're the exact same offense.
But did they go to England last year? Just want to let you know.
Like currency conversion? Is that what we're thinking? Are points worth more in England? Or?
How do the taxes work, by the way, on that game?
You don't want to know.
They're playing on foreign soil.
You don't want to know.
Oh my God.
I mean, it just feels like. I mean, I think a lot of us talked about it before the season started. Like, Rodgers probably is done, right? He's a 40-year-old coming off an Achilles injury. Like, even if his mind's still there, even if his arm's still there, like his legs aren't going to be underneath him, and it just seems like through the first 6 games, it just seems like his footwork's all messed up. As he's not driving the way he usually drives the ball. It's taking some zip away, and when you're a quick diagnosing guy like he is, sometimes you do have to have that zip to it. And I think those are the plays where he really struggles to convert, like those third downs where it's a tight window, it's a quick read, and he just needs a little bit extra on the ball. It just seems like he can't get there.
Yeah. I think that if the New York Jets, as you guys said, are in on Devontae Adams, it's going to be for when they hit the reset button during the summer. But
if you're Devontae Adams, do you even want to go to New York at this point?
He's not going to know that at the time. They're not going to sell him on that. They're going to try to get him in the building, and they're going to try to say, listen, the next quarterback we bring in with the new head coach that we're going to bring in as well, this is what we're going to do.
Yeah, so, I mean, maybe.
I mean, what a comfortable situation for any quarterback to come into if you have this receiving core plus Devontae Adams and Breece Hall in the backfield. And a rookie quarterback on a rookie deal, you can spend money everywhere else.
But you still have that offensive line.
No, that's what I'm saying, though, is if you get a rookie quarterback, you can spend money on any kind of offensive line. But, Paul, I mean, that's an off-season topic. You can't buy left tackles in the off-season. No, they're not available. Nope, they're not available.
You cannot. Well, and why don't we take a look forward, right? Because we're coming up near the end of the stream. Let's take a look forward. So one thing that Buffalo needs to get dialed in as they walk into Tennessee, I believe, and then Seattle, going against the NFL's leader in passing, Geno Smith in Seattle. Yeah, I know. It's the apocalypse is upon us.
I did not have that on my bingo card at all.
No, it's one of the 4 horsemen is Geno Smith leading the NFL in passing yardage. But if you're looking Tennessee, I mean, we've seen Buffalo lose games like this, right? So of course everybody's alert. Everybody's on high alert. But what's one thing Buffalo has to address before they get to Tennessee?
New head coach.
No, that's not.
No, my bad. Sorry.
Wrong team.
Just getting out of the gates faster, offensively and defensively. I mean, you can't always. You saw what it was to wait into the second half to try to adjust when you were playing Baltimore. You can't do that. You just can't wait.
Yeah, I'm not too concerned about the Titans game. Again, this is the first time the Bills will be home in 4 weeks. Hopefully the crowd's going nuts, and they rely on that. But to me, what they need to address is getting the passing game going early and being able to move the chains in the passing game. We see what they can do with the running game. We know the offensive line is going to be able to run block. Someone needs to tell Spencer Brown to stop. Just stop doing what you're doing, and stop getting behind the sticks early in downs, because we can say what we want about the officiating tonight, and there's a lot to say, but there are a lot of dead ball fouls on both teams, and dead ball fouls are not on the officials. False start is false start. Illegal procedure or illegal formation, that's all on the team. That's not on the officiating, and there are a lot of those, and so we need to make sure we don't get ourselves behind in the sticks early.
Yeah, I mean, offensively, they've got to figure out a way so that it doesn't have to be Josh Allen throwing the team on his back and going to winning football games. Like, this team's not going to win from behind this year unless they go out and address the wide receiver situation. They've got to get a lead early, and they've got to figure out a way to hang on to the lead. We saw it tonight. Like, there's going to be more football games like tonight, and Sunday against Tennessee could be one. You let a bad team hang around, and let's not get it twisted. The Jets are a bad football team right now. They were a bad football team coming into tonight, and they're a bad football team leaving tonight. You let bad teams hang around, and something wonky's going to happen, right? Josh Allen's taking care of the football so far this season, but he almost lost that fumble earlier, and that could have been big. You know, he's going to throw an interception at some point. He's not going to go through the entire season without throwing one. And don't let it be a pick six against Tennessee when you're clinging to a 3-point lead. So they've got to figure out a way, to Mario's point. They got to come out faster on offense. They've got to sustain some drives in the first half. And they've got to, defensively they have to be better at locking situations down. Situational football on defense is going to be paramount, because they're going to continue getting healthier on the defensive side of the football. Ed Oliver's coming back at some point. Von Miller's coming back. He's got to miss 2 more weeks. And, after that, you've got essentially your full defense with the exception of Matt Milano. The defense is going to have to carry the day, and to do that, you got to go out and get a lead. And then from there, play better situational football.
So I saw a little bit of growth today, which I am very happy to have seen. When the Bills needed to run the football and burn a team's timeouts, oh my God, they did it. Much unlike last week, where all they had to do was just run the ball to burn Baltimore's timeouts. They looked at it and said, oh, we should run the football here and burn the last of the Jets' timeouts. And oh my God, they held on to a 3-point lead at the end of a game.
Well, and that some of that was Josh though too. Like that third down play, that was all Josh.
Yeah, of course.
You will address him as such.
There's a grown ass man.
El Capitan. Sorry,
Yeah,
but regardless, right? The theory was we're going to do traditional football things here because the traditional football things are the right thing to do. So that was nice to see. Again, it's hard to talk about the offense every week, guys. It really is it's hard to talk about the offense every single week. But Tennessee should never at any point. The only thing that Tennessee should be winning in this game is maybe the coin flip. And with a 1-4 record or 1-5 record, I don't even know if they could do that right now.
This should be a replay. This would be a repeat of the Jacksonville game. I completely agree.
Yeah, this should be a curb stomping, and that the game should be over at the coin flip. Truthfully speaking,
you never know, Paul. I mean, they win this game, and Hopkins sees the Bills up close and personal. He might be like, I want to go there. You know what I mean?
What do they call these, Mario? Get right games?
Get right games, yeah absolutely.
Yeah.
So the Bills, just so everyone knows, the Bills opened 8.5-point favorites next week.
It's going to go up. I think it's going to go up.
Piece of candy.
That'll get bet up.
Yeah, I think that's going to go up. But there are, talking about betting, and don't forget to join us on Wednesday. Ryan and I go over every single game. There is something to be said about emotional divisional wins coming off of those as well. So there are some trends here. But I think that will go up.
Worth noting, actually, so the Buffalo Bills, after tonight's win, since 2020, the Bills are now 21-5 against the AFC East.
Mm-hmm.
And how do you get into the playoffs?
Take care of your house first. Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
Yo, we'd like to thank everybody, all the 50 beautiful people that are currently here watching us at 1:30 in the morning. Thank you so much for joining us for the hashtag sports presentation of the Buffalo Bills versus the New York Jets, where the Bills came out on top 23-20. We'd like to thank both of our sponsors for tonight's show, Mr. Rogers Homes and Bet DSI. Go hit up our socials, TikTok, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. All episodes will be on iTunes and Spotify. We're out this piece.
Hello, fellow Bills fans. Sean Rogers, realtor and lead of the Mr. Rogers Homes team. Did you know that real estate is one of the best ways to build wealth, and right now is one of the best times to own an investment property in Arizona? Please reach out to me. I'd be more than happy to answer any of your questions so we can take the next step to your financial freedom here in the Valley of the Sun, utilizing real estate. As always, God bless America, and go